Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Both of our cable television channels are on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. In addition, today, we're on the web, as always, civiccentertv.com. Click on the Watch Live link or view us in the small player on the home page. And today we're on the Facebook page of my co-host, Ronnie Dahl.
Hey, Tyler, how was your weekend?
It was good. How was yours, Ronnie?
Quick.
Yes, very quick weekend.
It takes so long to get to Friday, but to get from Friday to Monday, it's like a blink of the eye.
A blink of the eye. No problem. It just goes by real quick. Like, no, that's okay. These next 48 hours, 15 minutes.
Well, I know you guys worked Saturday, but I hope you had the chance to get out and enjoy the sunshine yesterday.
I did. I was able to get out both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday after the event we did at the high school for the football team's championship banner raising and team awards. I got outside here after that. I was waiting for some videos to export and shot some hoops. And on Sunday, same thing. Went out for a nice run and shot some hoops later on in the day and got out in the beautiful sun. It was a really nice weekend, Ronnie.
Oh my gosh, and today's going to be even better. Here's the thing though, Tyler. Mother Nature teases us.
All the time.
But I went ahead and I rolled the dice and I said, this is it. Winter is done. So we have a towel warmer for the dog. So in the wintertime, we bring out the towel warmer, and then every time she goes out for a walk, we put the towel in, we hit the button, we warm it up, so when she comes in, she has a nice warm towel to, wipe her little piggy paws.
Of course.
So I put it away because I'm like, no, we are not getting any more snow. This is spring.
Dangerous move this early on in the spring, and it's really until like early in mid-April we still have that little scary period there, but it's been so nice out. The weather is definitely taking a turn to the warmer side over the last few days. It's going to be a little rainy later on this week, but we'll take that over snow. So hopefully, as long as this weather doesn't turn back in the next couple weeks, I think we'll be in the clear.
You know what? Well, it's still March, but still, yeah. April showers bring May flowers,
exactly.
So we'll take a little bit of rain. Hey, Tyler, big sports enthusiast.
Yes.
I always say Tyler needs his own sports show because he is such a dedicated sports person. The knowledge in your brain really is it astounds me. But how's your bracket?
It's doing okay, actually. I do 3 brackets. This year I did 4 because I'm in I do a family bracket challenge with my dad and sometimes my brother, but my brother doesn't join my dad, and I will just put 2 brackets in there. But usually I do 3 brackets. I do my what I call my integrity bracket. It's the only bracket I submit into any office pools or anything like that, or friend pools, and it's what I submit into contests on like ESPN and that. That's my bracket. That's my actual picks. Then I have the coin flip bracket. Every decision is made by the flip of a coin. It's usually a mess. This year it took 3 16 seeds over 1 seeds. It does that all the time. I think the final matchup is 2 12 seeds, so it's crazy. And then the last one is the mascot strength bracket. Now my regular bracket, doing just fine. And it had a little bit of a rough day on Saturday, a few close losses that took some wins away. But I think I'm still in like the 85th or 88th percentile right now, which is pretty good after the first weekend.
Of course, the big controversy so far right now has to do with the NCAA workout rooms.
Yes.
For the basketball teams. So when you go to the women's room, they have like a few little weights and then yoga mats. You go to the men's and it's like crazy insane with all the weights and this, that, and the other. So of course the NCAA is backing down, trying to do a little PR control here.
Yeah, one of the women's players, Sedona Price, had made a tweet about that on Friday morning, and it just blew up right away because it is ridiculous. You have these 2 tournaments that are both in very enclosed areas that are very similar to one another, and yet the NCAA's argument is there's simply not enough space in this area to provide that level of a workout facility for the women's tournament as we do for the men's tournament. There's simply more space. And in the video that this player from the women's side had posted on her social media, it had shown that there was clearly tons of space left over, pretty much equal to what the men had in there. And the NCAA simply, it's like anything else with them. They're going to provide the best facilities to the tournament that's more profitable, despite at least in the last several months and the last couple of years, being so adamant about inclusion and equity in their game and promoting the women's game, when in reality, just like it's always been, they don't care. And South Carolina's head coach, Dawn Staley, who is an absolutely legendary women's basketball player, a bona fide Hall of Famer in her WNBA days, one of the greatest women's college basketball players, really one of the greatest college basketball players and professional basketball players of all time, said that pretty plainly in the statement that she made. They simply don't care, and they never care. If they did, they would have come out and said, we messed up. We need to fix this. We're going to fix it right away, and then continued going forward without making these kinds of mistakes, which, with the frequency that they make them, they're not mistakes. They simply do not care about the women's game as they should.
And that's why, Tyler, you should have your own sports show. But on top of that, though, we should point out this is Women's History Month. And this is still happening. It's still happening. It doesn't go away, and we need these situations, and that's the beauty of social media, because some of these things can go viral, and they can get attention, and hopefully down the road lead to change.
Yeah, there has to be change there, because the women's game continues to grow. The WNBA is becoming more popular over time. The women's basketball in the college ranks is becoming more popular over time, and even beyond that. Promoting the women's game is important to the advancement of the sport, because these athletes are the best athletes in the world. I think about some of the best basketball players of all time. A lot of them come from the women's game. Lisa Leslie is a bona fide legend. Even here in the Detroit area, one of the better players that Detroit has had in basketball in the last 20 years on the Detroit Shock, Katie Smith was one of them. Swin Cash, another one. These all come from the women's college basketball ranks, and if they're being treated like this in comparison to the men's league, simply because the NCAA doesn't want to put the money into there, it's another excuse that the NCAA makes, that there isn't enough money to do X, Y, and Z. There's not enough money to pay the players for their contributions to the multi-billion-dollar profits that they make off of these players, particularly football and basketball players in Division I. There's not enough money to provide equitable facilities to the women's basketball tournament as there is for the men's basketball tournament, despite there being ample space, and they're a multi-billion-dollar industry that goes after tiny, tiny little businesses when they even minutely suggest March Madness in their marketing during this time of the year. You got the money to do it.
Go ahead, rant, Tyler, rant.
No, I got plenty more. There's a lot more than just this. The NCAA is so behind backwards, let's say. They have a lot more than just this to fix. This is the tip of the iceberg.
We'll save that for our sports show, but I will say, though, it is Monday, and we do have good news on the when it comes to COVID-19.
Yes.
I am really hoping that this show gets canceled, because that means we have nothing else to talk about.
Yeah.
Because a year into this, and of course everyone knows that this show started with Dave Scott and Tyler, and it was a way to try to bring the community up to date on the latest information regarding COVID-19 here in our community. And we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, maybe a month. It's been a year now. And hopefully, if the show gets canceled, it's because we're doing a great job and COVID is no longer with us. And some good news, Astrazeneca, the U.S. data shows that the vaccine is going to be effective for all ages, which is going to be different from the other vaccines that we already have approved here in the U.S. So AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine provided strong protection against sickness and eliminated hospitalizations and deaths from the disease across all age groups in a late-stage study here in the U.S. AstraZeneca said its experts did not identify any safety concerns related to the vaccine, including finding no increased risk of rare blood clots that had been identified in Europe. Although AstraZeneca's vaccine has been authorized in more than 50 countries, it has not yet been given the green light here in the United States, and has struggled to gain public trust amid a troubled rollout. So the Astrazeneca vaccine is what scientists call the viral vector vaccine, Tyler. That means the shots are made with a harmless virus, like a cold virus that normally infects chimpanzees. It acts like a Trojan horse to carry the spike protein's genetic material into the body, which in turn produces some harmless proteins, which is similar to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Yeah, it's very similar to Johnson & Johnson, different from the Pfizer and Moderna, which are mRNA vaccines that behave a lot differently. There were a lot of concerns at the beginning of this vaccine process about having live virus in you and how that might affect you. And there's a lot of information that had to go into convincing people and well, not convincing, informing people of the differences between those traditional vaccines as we have come to know them and an mRNA vaccine. This is more along that traditional route, although it is not a fully live version of the virus. And that being said, another great thing about this is that it is being shown from the study to be effective for all ages, which means we can even further expand the availability of some of these vaccines without having to worry about as much of that balance being there, because you have the Pfizer, the Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines for those of ages that are outside eligibility for AstraZeneca, and AstraZeneca can be for those younger ages.
So why that's important for us here in the United States, because we already know the approval of the other 3 vaccines means there's going to be enough of the vaccine to pretty much vaccinate everyone here in the United States. But the study which makes it different is about the all age groups. So that's where we're going to see this play out. But also, we have to remember this is a global pandemic.
Right.
And while we may not feel connected to the people across the globe, everyone travels. So what happens in Africa happens here, and this is a big part of that. So having more vaccines means more people vaccinated.
Yeah, and even beyond that, we've spoken with this with Dr. Russell Faust, and I mean, I've read this and I've seen this in a number of different interviews too. The big focus on top of getting our communities and getting our country vaccinated is going to have to be getting the rest of the world vaccinated in a timely manner also, because while we may reach herd immunity in the U.S. at some point in the near future, if we do not bring that herd immunity as well, or help bring that herd immunity to other parts of the world that are not as far ahead in the vaccine process as we are, that gives more time for variants to arise and to spread that could at some point beat out the vaccines we have in place. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Dr. Faust referred to it as a race against the clock to get ahead of these other variants that will continue to pop up just because that's the nature of a virus, but to make sure we get enough people vaccinated on a worldwide level to where those variants don't at any point cross over the lead that we have with the vaccines. And
so with that too, we've heard so much about the Ford Field mass vaccination site. Well, here in Oakland County, United Wholesale Mortgage has partnered with Oakland County's Health Division on a COVID-19 vaccination site for residents as the Linder Sports Complex in Pontiac. That's going to be starting on April the 2nd. County's health office expects to vaccinate 1,000 to 3,000 residents per day at the UVM Sports Complex. That's going to be on South Boulevard, which has the capacity, though, to take up to 5,000 appointments per day, which is pretty much what they're doing at Ford Field. While we hear that 6,000 number at Ford Field, 1,000 of those are going to be mobile clinics. So UVM said vaccinations are going to be offered at the complex by appointment only, though. So Oakland's Health Division will pull appointments from its Savior Spot list. Currently, about 6,000 individuals are already registered. And of course, we've been talking about that a lot. Savior Spot, Oakland County Vaccine.
Yeah, that link is in this article for those of you listening on the radio, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, or go to our homepage and click on the coronavirus link. The link to the Oakland County registration is in that article, and this is another thing that's going to be well received, I think, by the people in Oakland County, because from people I've spoken to in Oakland County that have been comparing the vaccine process here to our neighboring counties like Macomb County and Wayne County and even places across the state, they're wondering, well, why are so many people that are my age or in my in my division of the demographics that are being determinants for getting vaccines, why have they all got their vaccines, but I haven't even been called yet? Part of that is because there is so much to distribute, and it's a matter of staffing, it's a matter of placement and distribution, and having a mass vaccination complex like United Wholesale Mortgage's facility in Pontiac, much like the Ford Field complex, will definitely help to expand that out and get these vaccines out a lot quicker and hopefully bridge that gap a little bit and ease some of that frustration as we get toward that point where next week the vaccine eligibility is going to be open to everybody in the state of Michigan.
So I have to say, though, Tyler, give credit where credit is due, and the city of Detroit seems to be doing a pretty darn good job of getting the vaccine in the arms of the people that want it. And I think that might be a key component to this, because certain communities are getting more of the vaccine than other communities. And if people aren't signing up, then it makes it more available to other people. And I do know a lot of people that have either gone to Wayne County to get it from here in Oakland County, because if you work in Wayne County, you can get it. Right. But they're also going to Ohio.
Yeah, I've heard some cases of people going to Ohio for the vaccine also, and looking to other places that they're eligible, whether if they work there, if they have another home there, and that's what their primary residence is, whatever the case may be, because people want to get this vaccine. They want to get it in a timely manner so we can all get through this a little bit quicker. But having that eligibility and having more facilities and more staffing and the ability to get more shots in arms is going to really help that along also.
So we should note that today is kind of a big day. It's a milestone day, because Michigan is going to see the expansion of the COVID-19 vaccine eligibility starting today. So all areas of the state may implement the vaccination of people who are age 50 and up. This is part of the phase 2, of course, as well as vaccination of people age 16 and up who have disabilities and or medical conditions, as well as their caregiver family members and guardians. Now, keep in mind, though, all of this is based on the availability of the vaccine. So this is a big move today for the state of Michigan. Now, April 5th, all areas of the state may, as the vaccine supplies are available, implement the vaccination of all people age 16 and up who were not previously eligible. So as of Friday, 27.1% of residents, including about 2/3 of the 65 and up group, have received at least one dose of the vaccine. Probably the biggest question I get is, how can I get the vaccine? Where can I get the vaccine? And so there are so many different ways, which makes this even more confusing, I think, for some people. You can get it from your local health department. So for us, Oakland County, we've been pushing the Save Your Spot. Hospitals, I am a member of Beaumont, and so I get emails from Beaumont quite often reminding me that I can get it through Beaumont. Ford Field, that is starting this week. I do know people that signed up for Oakland County Save Your Spot and the Ford Field, and they're already into the Ford Field. And we want to remind people, as you get the vaccine, please go back and remove your name from some of these other entities that you signed up for, your pharmacies, and then some nonprofits and other organizations are going to be doing that as well. I expect that to start to ramp up this week with the Ford Field vaccinations, so 6,000 vaccines per day. However, they're only going to do 5,000 at Ford Field. 1,000 of the vaccines are being set aside so that they can do them in these mobile clinics and start to get out into the communities.
Yeah, and all of those links are on our website on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. We have links to our local health departments, hospital links for signing up, the Ford Field link to register for Ford Field through Hyer, as well as CVS and Rite Aid. civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Some resources, direct links that will take you where you need to go go without having to surf all the way through the internet to find some of these many locations that you can sign up. And as you had said, when you have gotten through and you have gotten your vaccine, it's as easy as going back, at least in Oakland County, to oaklandcountyvaccine.com. And if you haven't gotten your vaccine through Oakland County, you can go right there to remove your spot from their Save Your Spot website, so that if you're getting vaccinated somewhere else, somebody else that isn't getting vaccinated yet that's still in line can get their vaccine a little bit sooner.
So with all that, as you just said, go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. That's where you're going to find the latest headlines and also the direct links to all the resources that you need to try to navigate the COVID-19 crisis. We're going to take a quick break here on the show, and then when we come back, we have a full lineup ahead of us. We'll be speaking with the Reverend from the Pine Hill Congregational Church right after the break, and then the Recreation Superintendent over at the West Bloomfield Parks Department. We are moving into the spring season here, Tyler. And then coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, I'm excited to talk with our state rep, Ryan Berman. He represents District 39, but he's been a big push behind new transparency with our lawmakers and the FOIA laws. And so I'm excited to talk to him. Todd Weston, who is with the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, will be with us around 11:20. And then we'll round out the show talking with the Better Business Bureau about so many of the scams that are going on right now, how to prevent yourself from becoming a victim. That's on the Monday edition of the Megacast.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Tyler?
Yes.
I don't think, I don't know, do guys really experience this like girls? But there must be some serious static electricity around, because my shirt is like sticking, my hair is flying up, and I try to spray it. Like I try to spray my shirt, my clothes with, because I am one of those bad people that still use aerosol hairspray. Whew. But static electricity is quite the thing, I'm telling you.
There must be. It must just be the electric atmosphere in here, because I do know when I come in and I turn the overhead lights in here on, not the lights we have on, the TV lights, but the overhead lights, just the fluorescence. Whenever I use the switch over there, I do get a little bit of a shock. So I think there is some static electricity that is in here at least. In terms of if guys experience that, when my hair's a little bit longer, I do experience that sometimes, but usually not, because my hair's short enough where there's not a whole lot of stragglers. Or if there is, I can take care of them pretty quickly, and they tend to play along.
All my clothes like stick to me. I'm like,
no.
Oh my goodness. Hey, but great to have you with us here on the Monday edition of the Megacast. For those that may be tuning in for the very first time, Tyler and I are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Mm-hmm. And really the goal of the show is to bring you some of these long-form interviews so that you can get the full picture of what's going on in our community as we all continue to navigate COVID-19. Because, you know, I worked in broadcast news for well over 20 years, and it's about the soundbite. You know, a package, a reporter story is usually, like a minute 15, and you're limited to like 10, 15-second sound bites. So we like to try to bring you the full interviews that reporters have each and every day, but you don't get to see. And this is so important right now as we continue, while we hope we are on the backside of the pandemic, we're not out of the woods yet. And with that, if we can bring in Reverend Dr. Charles Pecker, he's the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church in West Bloomfield. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
How has the past year been for you and members of your congregation?
I'm going to avoid using the word unprecedented because I really want to retire that word. But
don't we?
That and pivot.
No, please.
It has been challenging. It has been at times difficult. It's been never lacked for excitement, and it's actually encouraged us to do some out-of-the-box thinking.
A lot of out-of-the-box thinking. Are you back in person as of yet?
No, we have been, the Pine Hill Congregational Church has been remote, has been virtual since March 15th. Of last year, and we are hoping to get back into the building sooner than later, but we are really trying to be very cautious in our approach. So we are still meeting via Zoom every week.
And we do know some churches have opened the doors to allow for people to come back in, but we also know that so many members of the congregation do make up the elderly population, so when you're trying to address that, how do you do that as a community and as a family?
Well, I think you just named the great concern as we as a church. I'll just speak for the Pine Hill Congregational Church, but as we make our discernment on whether or not to reopen it, or when to reopen rather, we are trying to live out being a good neighbor, and that means thinking about the broad scope of ages and representation in our congregation. So we are constantly thinking about those most vulnerable in the elderly when we make our decisions. I think sometimes it may have changed, but I know early on it was our senior members of the congregation that were so eager to get back quickly, and it was the rest of us that were much more reserved and cautious and concerned. I think that's leveled out a little bit as understanding of the pandemic has spread, but we are trying to look out for those who are most vulnerable in our population.
Reverend Dr. Charles Pecker with us here on the Megacast. He's the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church, and with that, Reverend, the church is more than a community. It's a family for some. How have you been able to fill in those gaps during this past year? We know so many people are going virtual.
Well, and yes, and we are very fortunate that in the Pine Hill Congregational Church, most of our people actually, and I'm so grateful for this, but most of our folks are able to get on to Zoom, the Zoom platform. I know that's not the case in all communities. Now, we do have a small group that is unable to be connected in that way. And so I give my leadership of the church just such high marks, because consistently, they ask the question at our monthly virtual meetings, how can we reach out to those who we don't see on Zoom? And so there are phone calls made. I know I make phone calls, other people do, cards are sent. We actually print out all of our worship materials, from bulletins to my sermon to prayers, and they get postal mail to each person every week who can't get on Zoom. And we also we have a weekly e-blast to our membership. And for those who aren't internet accessible, we have a deacon who prints out what we call the Pine Needle. We're Pine Hill, and so it's the Pine Needle, the weekly news that gives the prayer concerns and that sort of thing. So our folks are constantly receiving contact from us, and we hope it's enough.
Right. So you're trying to fill in the gaps anywhere
Right.
those gaps may exist.
Absolutely.
So we'll try to look at our blessings during this time. What have you found to be the overall blessings for your church?
I think a big blessing has been that we have been able to be community and family in a different way. And by that, it has been so wonderful that our members, our very active members who moved to Colorado 2 years ago, are able to be with us almost every single Sunday from Colorado. And by Zoom technology, we're able to see them. We're able to interact with them. Our snowbirds that go to Florida or Arizona, for example, have been able to connect with us. We're able to see them through the winter season, which we weren't able to do. We had some that participated for the first time in a Christmas Eve service with us because we were on Zoom. And we have people even in the state who have moved away, a family that's moved up north and to Boyne City area, and they're able to connect with us. So that has been a real blessing, that we've been able to find new ways to connect. For the seasons of Advent and Lent, our deacons put together bags with special items for the season. Like for Lent, we put in candles and a cross and seeds for Easter, a palm branch for Palm Sunday, and people picked them up who could from the church. Every family got them. And then for those that couldn't get to us, we divided them up and we took them to their doors. And so, it's been really rewarding to be able to be community in those new ways.
But the church, with it being the community, it's also the place where people come together and to mark those special occasions in our life, which is weddings and funerals. What has that side of the house been like for you?
It's been interesting for me as a minister to not be officiating at so many of those events. What has been interesting is that I think families have sort of self-selected to hold off on a lot of celebrations. I know there have been weddings that have been postponed that I and other people connected to my community have been asked to officiate. There have been deaths that I know will be memorialized after the pandemic passes. People are just remarkably resilient and understanding, and that's been a wonderful thing to realize during this time. Even as difficult as it is to not be able to be in person and really celebrate those things in the moment as we all would like to do.
So we are speaking with Reverend Dr. Charles here on the Megacast. He is the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church. With that, there are so many things going on in the world. We have a global pandemic right now. People are worried about life and death and the health and their safety of their loved ones. But racism has also been brought to the forefront during this trying time in our nation. Your thoughts on that? Because I do know that you're an advocate and you are a part of the interfaith community.
Yes, and I'll touch first on the issue of race in our society right now. It has come to the forefront. And it's certainly tragic the ways in which it has. I think that if churches and religious organizations choose to, they can see this as an opportunity, a real educational moment to enter into that dialogue and really try to make a difference, to bring us closer to realizing in Christianity it would be the vision of the kingdom of God that Jesus taught, but more broadly, the beloved community of which Martin Luther King Jr. spoke and preached. And so I know at the Pine Hill Congregational Church, we've actually held a series, a book discussion series on White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. We did a discussion of the recent movie, and now the name is escaping me. But
don't think about it for a second; it'll come to you.
It'll come back to me. Anyway, sorry about that. But at any rate, we're hoping to actually do more of that as a denomination or as an association of churches. My church belongs to the National Association of Congregational Christian Churches, and our national association has just recently formed a racial justice task team, and they've made virtual programming available. Right now, we're going through a 3-part series of looking at chronicles, conversations in our Christian faith, and we're raising issues about racial justice and tapping into our churches and our ministers who are African American, listening to their experience and trying to figure out how we can communicate better in our congregations and make a difference. So there is a lot of energy and movement, both locally and regionally and nationally as well.
How are you able to reach the members of your congregation with that lesson and that teaching when they're not in your pews?
It's amazing. We've done everything by Zoom. And if a year and a half ago, if anyone would have said that we'd be holding our meetings and our classes and our educational discussion and retreats, I've done an Advent retreat and a Lenten retreat by Zoom, not to mention every regular Sunday and special worship service via Zoom. I wouldn't have believed it, but our folks have been remarkably adaptive to that, and we've been able to do things that I never would have imagined that we would have been able to do. But we do it all virtually, and we do have that feeling or that sense of community that's different than being in person, but still viable.
And we're still trying to reach as many people as possible. With us right now on the Megacast, Reverend Dr. Charles Packer. He is the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church. And with that, Reverend, if I could talk to you just a moment, I know that you are a big part of the Waterford Refugee Welcome Alliance. Tell us more about that.
In 2016, the Township of Waterford Board passed a symbolic resolution that, in essence, was meant. It was a statement that the township would decline to encourage the settlement of Syrian refugees in Waterford Township. And there were a lot of, I think, political discussions around that at that time that led up to that. But there were many, particularly in the religious communities, clergy and other, that said, this does not speak, this does not communicate to the houses of worship or really even to the spirit of Waterford Township, that really feels that it wants to be welcoming and open and not fearful and hostile. And so the Waterford Refugee Welcome Alliance formed to try to change hearts and minds locally and regionally as much as possible. And Reverend John Nagel of Christ Lutheran Church in Waterford was the founder of that organization. And when he retired in 2018, a member of his church and I took on the responsibilities of co-facilitating that organization. We've had 1 to 2 educational programs open to the public every year. We try to do some advocacy. A number of faith communities in the area participate in collections to help benefit refugee families families that are settled in the area that are lacking of resources, even basic resources like fans in the summertime or winter clothing, because they may have come from a place in which winter wasn't the reality that it is here in Michigan. And so we do really, really want to raise the consciousness about the issue. We're glad that Waterford is really one of the only that I know of community in Southeast Michigan that did pass such a resolution. But we do want to raise the issue in hearts and minds throughout the area as well.
And with that, you think about the courage it takes for some of the people to come over here and not even being able to speak the language and not having the resources. They are relying on this to be able to make them become successful members of our society and thrive as well. And that pays back in generations to come. But as a minister, as a man, as an individual, what have you learned from being a part of the community in the center?
In terms of the refugee issue?
Yes.
I would say that I think that there is a great spirit among everyone to try to be a good neighbor. And with regard to refugees, what I've learned about the refugees that have come over is that there are a large number that had to leave jobs for which they received multiple years of education, invested a lot of funds, and they come over to this country and they can't hold those positions. So they take other positions, and they want to contribute. They want to be a part of the community. And they want to be as much of a neighbor as possible. And it's been heartening to me when people do respond to our educational events that there just does seem to be really at the core a desire to be neighborly, to not put up those walls or boundaries. And that's encouraging.
That is so encouraging. And with that, what do you want the community to know? Like, how can they get involved, and why should they get involved?
Well, I think that we as a Waterford Refugee Welcoming Alliance have found that there are some agencies out there that are doing remarkable work. And so I would recommend trying to connect with SARN, the Syrian American Rescue Network, Samaritas, Lutheran Social Services, Catholic Charities. Those are all organizations that we work closely with and that I know all facilitate handling of resources and getting donated resources to the refugee individuals and families that are in need of them. And so those are three organizations that I would try to seek out and see what can be done to assist their efforts.
Our community is better when we lift one another up. Reverend Dr. Charles Pecker with us here on the Megacast. He's the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church. And with that, Reverend, when do you anticipate you will be back in service, in-person service?
I believe that I'm hoping that it will be by summer. We keep sort of setting dates ahead of time in hopes. I mean, for most of this year, we've been saying we're going to be have our building closed through April 30th and look at May 1st. Our Board of Trustees will look in April and see if we need to extend that period of time a bit. And so we're hopeful sooner than later, but I'm really strongly hopeful it'll be in the summer.
So how does the vaccine play into that rollout plan?
Certainly, we are, as a community, most of us, we don't ever compel anyone to tell us, have you been vaccinated, have you had one shot or two shots? But it's just been sort of natural that when we have our fellowship time on Sunday mornings before the service begins, that people are asking one another, okay, have you gotten the call? Have you gotten the vaccine? And I have just noticed that over the last 2 months, as that sort of sharing has taken place, that a vast number of our members have received at least one shot by now. It's a significant number. I mean, I'm a little bit on the young side for the shot myself, and so I'm just now getting on lists and hoping to get called sooner than later. But the vast majority of the congregation has at least begun the process, and that's really a bright spot for us. There's just a lot of celebration around that in our community when we do hear that someone has gone in and received the vaccination.
So with that, Reverend Dr. Charles Packer with us here on the Megacast. He is the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church. And Pastor, if I can ask you about this, we know that the Catholic Church is asking their members to possibly, if they can pick and choose, to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine versus the Pfizer and Moderna. Your thoughts on that, or you just want a healthy congregation?
I want a healthy congregation, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that a lot of our members have gotten Moderna or the other. I mean, they've gotten a variety of them, and so I'm certainly not pushing one over the other, and believe and trust that there are many good minds that can better advise and counsel on that. But I'm just really grateful when people are feeling safer and vaccinated and protected in that way.
Well, we know that so many people love going to their church to seek that solace and to seek that guidance. We know that a church is more than the doors that you walk through. And this past year has reminded all of us of that. Reverend Dr. Charles Packer with us here. He's with the Pine Hill Congregational Church. Anything maybe I didn't touch on that you want to add before we say goodbye for the day?
I do want to mention something. You had mentioned that I am involved with interfaith work, and I am on the board of the Interfaith Leadership Council of Metropolitan Detroit. And we do a number of things to bring different faith communities and traditions together. We live in a diverse region in Southeast Michigan. And I do want to plug an event, if I could, that's taking place tonight at 7 p.m., a virtual event. Over many, many months, our education committee, which I co-chair of the Interfaith Leadership Council, put together a video of interviews with brief, short interviews with 10 area artists of different media and different faith traditions, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. And we are debuting that video tonight. We're going to show it this evening virtually, and we are going to have 9 of the 10 artists interviewed available for question and answer after, and I'm moderating that tonight. Then after tonight, it will be available on the Interfaith Leadership Council website for $20, not much, $20 to purchase, and it can be shown, it can be viewed as individuals, but it can also be shown to groups. Particularly during this pandemic, we wanted something inspiring and creative to be out there and available to our community to be able to be viewed visually and virtually. And if anyone wants a link to that event, they can email me at drcapacker@gmail.com, drcapacker@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to connect them with a link to that event. But we're really excited about the debut of this video. But it's one example of the many things the Interfaith Leadership Council tries to do to bring people together and enhance understanding.
That's beautiful, because understanding starts with a conversation. At what time again does the event start, and how late can someone email you to get a link?
Thank you. 7 p.m., and it would be really great if I could get any email requests by 4 p.m.
Yeah, because you might be a little busy before the event, right?
Yes, yeah. A few things going on, yes.
Well, we thank you so much for not only your time, but also your passion and your commitment to our community. Reverend Dr. Charles Packer, he's the senior minister for the Pine Hill Congregational Church. And again, if you want a link to that event for tonight, just email him, drcapacker@gmail.com. Please do so by 4 p.m. The event starts at 7. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, our good friends over at the West Bloomfield Parks Division will be with us here on the Megacast.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/contain-COVID.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. We are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Just in case you are joining us for the very first time, you can always catch us. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have cable, thank you. A portion of your bill does go to support programming such as this. You can always find us channel 15 on Comcast here in Oakland County, 99 on AT&T. You can also tune us into the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. So many of us, we have been taking advantage of the outdoors right now. Our parks and recreation departments have really become vital to helping us survive this pandemic. With us now, let's bring in Kelly Hyer. She's the recreation superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks Division. Kelly, always great to have you.
Yes, thank you. Same.
It's springtime in Michigan. Yay! And the weather's been beautiful.
I can't help but looking out my window this morning and noticing more robins and cardinals swinging by. So yes, spring is in the air.
You know, it would have been okay for you to do this interview outside.
Actually, we could have. The wind sometimes is a challenge, but yes.
Yeah, last week was so super windy, but it's beautiful this week. It really kind of gives all of us spring fever, and now we're a year into the pandemic. The vaccine is becoming more widely available. It's like hope in spring at the very same time. So many great events going on at the West Bloomfield Parks Department. Tell us about some of the things on your agenda.
Sure. Well, upcoming, we have some of our April events that our residents might want to register for. So Earth Day, that's going to be on Tuesday, April 20th in the evening. We still have spots open, registration ongoing. And then we have a community garage sale right here at the Recreation Activity Center in our parking lot. So our booths are all sold out, but shoppers, mark your calendars for April 24th. It's a Saturday. It's starting at 8 a.m.
So Earth Day, we have seen such an increase of the usage of our parks and our trails throughout the pandemic. You guys have been so creative in some of the events that you have been doing. It really is kind of inspiring in its own way.
Well, thank you for noticing that. There is no bad weather if you're dressed for it, as staff likes to say around here. And Mother Nature was very nice to us. If you think about it, if our winter was a little chilly a couple weeks, right, we dropped below 10, but it was beautiful out this winter and then rolling right into spring. Think about how many sunny days we've had. It is remarkable.
So with that though, Kelly, I will say, I was like, I'm taking a leap of faith. And every winter, we bring out a towel warmer for the dog. So when the dog goes out for a walk, we put the towel in the towel warmer. So when she comes back in, she has a warm towel so we can wipe her paws, right? So she has a warm towel, and it helps the snowballs melt quicker. But I said, no, it's so pretty this weekend. I'm putting it away. I'm taking a risk. Clear skies, sunny weather from here on out. But with that, we come into spring. There are things that we should know, right? I mean,
right. That's right.
So with that, I will say, I live on the West Bloomfield Trail. Trash is everywhere, and to no one's fault, it's just on those windy days when the trash is picked up, it blows out on the trail. Can people just take part in any type of cleanups?
Of course. In fact, if you're a regular walker, we encourage you to stick a bag in your pocket, and then as you see trash, make sure you bring your gloves too as you pick them up. But everyone can help out with that.
So I know that every year you guys typically do a big trip to Tigers Stadium for the ball game. Is that happening this year?
Unfortunately, no. So again, your comment about how creative we've been, staff has just been very ingenious when it comes to alternative plans. So if you're 50 and over, you can register for our Tigers Day opening day lunch on April 1st, and that's in the parking lot at Connect, and it comes with 30 minutes of a program plus your lunch.
Well, we should say, though, the Tigers really haven't been so good anyway.
You're not missing a whole lot.
Yeah, well, one could say that, yes.
I mean, let's give them a few years to rebuild.
Of course.
There you go.
Before we go back into the ballpark, save yourself some money.
Yeah. Well, we're going to give out prizes, so still bust out your memorabilia and come dressed for, you do have to pre-register for the program, but we're giving out prizes for best dressed, and all the information will be in your receipt. But again, trying to do something outdoors, socially distanced, and our parking lot programs have been really popular all through the winter.
So Kelly Hyer with us here. She is the Recreation Superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks Division. Do you have a Jib Jab? The app, Jib Jab?
No, my husband does.
Okay.
So I am aware of what that is.
So when you do Jib Jab and you put in baseball, they have a Detroit Jib Jab. So you can put your head on the player. And so I use that every spring when we're talking about the Tigers, because it's the Detroit Tigers thing. And it's like, yeah, we lost again. We're the Detroit Tigers.
Well, maybe we'll have to put all the seniors' pictures in there as we their photos on Thursday.
Oh, you definitely have to, and it's you can use that one. By the way, there's a paid version of Jib Jab, and then there's a free version, and you can use it on the free version. And you run and you pick up the ball and this, that, and the other. So with that, with springtime, what other events do you guys have coming up? Because Easter's on its way. Please tell me the Easter Bunny's still coming.
Of course. It is, however, sold out. So if you were enough to pre-register, I know. We're doing two different events. We're doing one on April 1st, and that is the Bunny Trail event. So instead of our normal tradition of Drake Sports Park, where we have 600 plus people come, we've had to scale it back, and that's on Thursday. And then Friday, we do have, if you've pre-registered for it, 20 local lucky households are getting a special visitor with some prizes. So,
Kelly, do you guys realize, like, you have the Easter Bunny in costume, right?
I know.
You could rent that out and make some side cash.
Well, we could, maybe.
Look, these are tough times, even for our Parks and Recreation Department. We're always looking at ways to...
Ronnie, are you wanting to jump ship and come over and work for us? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that, but I will say that if you need an Easter Bunny, I will put on the costume. I was Teddy Tornado when I was in high school.
So you had official training. Love it.
That thing was so hot. People don't realize how
mascots
hot...
are very hot. I was the Biffalo back in the... It's the Biff style mascot, 88.1.
Both
the Biff.
of you.
I was the Biffalo.
Make guest appearances for us.
See, look at that. People don't realize those costumes are so hot, but you really have to animate your arms. But I was a cheerleader, and then for like the JV games, I would put on the costume to help them out in this, that, and the other. So,
well, now I know 2 other people to call on our list. So.
There you go, Kelly. And I will say, like our neighborhood, I know that I live in Harbor Village in Kegel Harbor. Sometimes someone in our neighborhood has access to a bunny costume, so they'll do that where the bunny will hop through the neighborhood and this, that, and the other. So
Yep, you got to have those connections.
With that, Kelly Hyer with us here. She is the Recreation Superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks Division. We have been so incredibly lucky to live here in our community throughout this pandemic, and it has to do so much with the West Bloomfield Parks and all that you offer us each and every day. And with that, Kelly, any other upcoming events or any information that you want the public to know about?
Sure. Well, if you've noticed, last week we opened our tennis courts, our pickleball courts, and all our playgrounds are now open. And most of our bathrooms will be opened in another 2 weeks. So we are opening up. Bear with us. Some of the trails are quite muddy. So as we get some more windy and sunny days, those trail conditions will improve. So if you have a normal route and it's a little underwater, maybe try something different. And our recreation guide is coming out, our summer edition. It'll be online on next Monday and in your mailboxes if you live in West Bloomfield Township the first week of April. And registration does begin April 5th.
Kelly Hyer with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the Recreation Superintendent for West Bloomfield Parks. And Kelly, as we are heading back somewhat toward normalcy with the vaccination process being where it's at, for a lot of this pandemic, seniors have been isolated at home in particular. Their social isolation's been significantly greater than other populations in our community. West Bloomfield Parks Connect had just opened shortly before the pandemic. It was really starting to get popular. It was a great place for seniors to go. Is Connect back open, or are programs currently running through Connect that are helping to kind of re-engage our local senior population?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are in constant conversations about when we are going to reopen, and those are part of our weekly operational discussions. So no date yet, but if you are a Connect member, and you're right, Tyler, our membership took off last year as soon as we opened. So our members will hear first when we are ready to reopen. In the meantime, you continue to check out what we have to offer outside or in our parking lot series or virtual programming, because we started late last August all the way through fall and winter with some really unique events. So we're still continuing to bring those to our seniors until we can safely reopen.
Kelly, we always so enjoy having you on the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Anything maybe we didn't touch on that you wanted to add before we say goodbye, though?
No, I think you asked about... you asked some great questions this morning, so that's all I have.
So Kelly, I will say before we say goodbye, I've been on Pinterest, and so now I'm inspired because I see your sign to make some really cool Easter eggs. Because before I would just, there are so many nonprofits right now that are collecting the plastic Easter eggs, and then they, put things in them for the kids. But there are some really cool, super fancy, like Beyond Martha Stewart Easter eggs that you can design out there. So the pressure is on, Kelly.
Tell you what, Pinterest is a go-to. Thinking back, I started my career 20 years ago. We didn't have those resources. It was, you would have to subscribe to a magazine that came in the mail and rip out the pages that you found inspiring. So now is in this career, Pinterest is a go-to. Lots of clever ideas.
So many. I will say my husband is so excited I found Pinterest because I have so many stacks of magazines. They're like 10 years old and I'm still holding on to them because one day I might get to them. He's like, but you have Pinterest now. Where was Pinterest when I got married?
You have a career in Parks and Recreation. I think you need to think about your next step there.
How about volunteer?
That's right. Hey, that's great too.
Kelly, we so appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing, but your entire team over there, you guys have had a long year.
Exactly.
But you really have adjusted to serve our community, and we so appreciate it. Kelly Hyer with us here on the Megacast. When we come back, as a reminder, I'm running a little bit late. I'm so sorry, but you are listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. When we return, I am so excited to talk to our next guest, State Representative Ryan Berman. He represents District 39, but Ryan Berman has really been leading the charge about transparency in our government here in the state of Michigan. I'm so excited to talk to him about that just after this break.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Hey, my mic's getting caught in my necklace.
Oh, no.
You've never had that, right?
No, I have not. It was close, though, on St. Patrick's Day with that necklace. I still got that down here. Maybe I should try do a scientific experiment.
I found glitter on the chair this morning.
We're going to be finding that glitter all over the studio. It got a little shine on the floor now.
Nothing like a little green glitter. Hey, thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios with Mr. Tyler Keefe. As a reminder, you can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. I am a document diva.
Yes.
So just so people know, if there's someone you want investigated, send me their name. You can find me my journalist page, Ronnie Dahl, or if you're one of my friends on Facebook, send me a message, because when I can't sleep at night, I love to go through online documents. And one of the things that drives me nuts is the lack of transparency when it comes to documents about our government here in the state of Michigan. So sometimes, as so many of you know, I was a reporter for eons and eons and eons, and one of my favorite pastimes was just to submit FOIAs. Sometimes you just submit FOIAs because you don't know what you're going to get from a FOIA, but it's our information. And there are so many barriers in trying to get this information. And so I'm so excited to bring in our next guest, Representative Ryan Berman. He's with the Michigan State Representative for District 39. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you even more so for taking up this issue of transparency within our government. FOIA is not new, so what has been the challenge of getting this passed here in the state of Michigan?
Thanks for having me here today, Ronnie and Tyler. As you said, one of your favorite pastimes, sending in FOIAs for the Freedom of Information Act. We have this statutory framework here in Michigan where you can request information from our government agencies. However, there are barriers. There's exceptions to some of the documents you can get. And moreover, there's fees that some units of government, some departments more than others, try to jack those fees up to place arbitrary limits on what information, or whether you're willing to cough up that amount of money to get that data. So my big push, one of the reasons I ran for office, is because our transparency, because of these FOIA laws, are not as good as other states. So my first big bill last session was, and again, when we're talking about the Freedom of Information Act, the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office, and the legislature itself is exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. So my bill was the Legislative Open Records Act, which opened up the legislature itself to FOIA in the same terms and kind of beyond. Right now, we voluntarily comply with information requests. We put all financials on the House website. Anybody, even before websites, could go in, and it's kind of enshrined in the constitutional rules that financial information should be known. It's now easily available and navigable on the House website. And what this is doing is, yeah, we've been doing it voluntarily, but again, putting in a law saying, hey, we've been doing it, we're going to continue doing it, and we have to by law.
So with us now, Representative Ryan Berman. He is the state representative for District 39, which includes so many people here in our area. And I will say, Ryan, people who don't understand this because they think FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, is really for reporters, and it's not. It's public information. It's your information. You, as a private individual, can request this information as well. So you're a hero to so many people who don't realize this is not a political issue. This is it's a personal issue. It's your it's my information. It's your information. It's all of our informations because you're paid with our tax dollars. So, but one thing, some people are saying that it doesn't go far enough, because we do know that when it comes outside of the state of Michigan, the legislator, the governor, the lieutenant governor, if an entity, typically what happens, you put in a FOIA, they have up to 10 business days to reply, this, that, and the other. But if they don't comply, then you can take them to court. And one thing with the Legislative Act is you can't go through the court process. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so and that's why instead of just expanding FOIA to the legislature, my bill created this new act. Because we have the separation of powers in the different branches of government, really, and I am, as a state representative, all state representatives, I'm considered a public body myself. My office itself is its own public body, but it's part of the legislature. And looking at these exemptions and what records could or couldn't be given, where typically, court right now says, you have to, this is what the law mandates. To get rid of that political considerations, also the separation of power issues, we set up our own kind of system within LORA, the Legislative Open Records Act, to have the same rights, same appeals, all that doesn't touch on these constitutional issues. And it sets it up within the legislative, where we have a legislative council, which is a nonpartisan council that oversees the operations. We have our own House business office, things like that. It makes the legislative council administrator, who oversees all this nonpartisan, both Democrats and Republicans, their business and how they run their offices now, makes them the decider, that our ultimate arbiter, the judge, if you will, of any type of legislative record act exemption appeals. So it sets up that same framework, and it makes it within our Michigan constitutional, within the bounds of our Constitution.
So this is not a new issue. This has been presented before, and we should note that the state of Michigan routinely works at the bottom of the list for open transparency within our government, and one of it has to do with these type of barriers to some of the communication. And of course, this severance package between the governor and outgoing Department of Health and Human Services Director Robert Gordon has kind of spearheaded and sparked this conversation again. But the bills have passed through the House prior, but they've died in the Senate. Do you think this time it's going to be different? We are actually going to see change?
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been up a few sessions ago. I was a new representative last term, and this package of bills, my bill, passed the House overwhelmingly last time, went to the Senate where nothing happened. The Senate didn't bring it up. This time around, it passed last week, unanimous, 109-0. Again, it's a bipartisan. There's Republicans and Democrats on it. We had over 50 co-sponsors of about half the House sending it over there. And the difference is that from this time than in previous years, where a lot of House members that previously supported this are now over on the Senate side, and they're senators supporting this. Somebody like Representative Jeremy Moss, he was a big advocate for transparency. And I remember, and he's on the other side of the aisle, he was a representative trying to get this done. Now he's a senator. I was on a program with him last week, and on the Senate side, he actually said last year, for the first time ever, the oversight chair, they were going to have a hearing. It was going to be last March on this, and then COVID happened. Didn't happen. So now, again, we're starting over. I think there's a big push for this. I had another bill, and I have another bill that's going to be passing next week, again, with transparency that makes it where the House does it on our own, like everybody that works for the House and how much they get paid, then puts that for all the departments, our state departments as well. That one passed the House, went to the Senate, passed the Senate committee last session, and then didn't get taken up because of COVID and all this other stuff. Started again. It's about to get passed out of the House. Now we have more time working. We don't have to deal with, the unknowns and everything that happened last year and shutdowns and COVID, where there's more time to get this through. Not only that, there's a big public and a groundswell of support for these measures, more so than normal, because of everything that's going on, because of COVID, because of what the governor, whether you agree or disagree with her orders, she's never shared the data. She's never shared her reasonings. People want to see that. I've requested it. Now you bring up the payoffs to the Director of Health and Human Services, with the confidentiality agreement. People are like, hey, that just doesn't sound right. Whether again, that underlying data, the underlying issues, whether it is everything's great or not, if you're not showing it, if you're not being open and putting your cards on the table, there's just going to be an immediate kind of distrust, that people say, that doesn't sound right, unless you open up to them. People want that. So there's also been talk about a voter-initiated law like this. And some groups have been talking about and starting to organize it. I think that, again, will help push the senators in the right direction in order to get this done, where people don't have to waste their time, resources, and commitment doing it because the senators won't act.
And I will say, for anyone out there who is listening, when it comes to this, it's Progress Michigan that is pushing this possible voter initiative. You need to start emailing your representatives and your senators, because, again, this is our information. They're paid for with our tax dollars. But we also know, Ryan, I've been on the backside of this as someone who worked for federal law enforcement agencies, and you would get those FOIA requests. Federal government's a little bit different than a state and local government, but we were open to FOIA laws as well. We know that there are barriers that you can put up, and it comes in with the cost. I don't remember, there were so many times I put in FOIAs, and we understand that there are costs associated, but we should be able to go in and review the records, because a lot of the cost has to come in the printing. Yep. And the redacting. So does any of your bills address that issue? Because we do know that that's just a barrier to try to keep this information out of the public's hands.
Yeah, so one of the bills, I don't have the list in front of me of who is the sponsor, but it actually sets it up with the Legislative Open Records Act, where you're right about typically there's a 10-day process. It says we have a 5-day, a shorter time frame, and it actually has, with the fees, has to be reasonable, sets up that stuff, has a waiver of fees, an appeal of the fees. But also, more importantly, again, using technology, it actually specifies you can do a request by email. You can get your request by email. So again, where they were the fees of copying, duplicating, which a lot of agencies and even around here use, say, hey, why can't you just hand me it on a flash drive? Nope, we're going to do it this way. And again, that extra barrier. That bill says you can get it on a flash drive. You can get it on a different media. You can get it by email in a digital file. So it won't cost, have those prohibitive costs that agencies have used to not disclose.
Representative Ryan Berman with us here on the Megacast. With that, you are an attorney by trade, but yet you're forcing and you're pushing this open records law, but you understand confidentiality, and you would also be exposed to opening your records. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, I'm considered as a state representative. It's the position that I'm honored to hold right now, and it's a position of being a representative of the people. And like you said, when you're being paid, again, I think that taxpayers have a right to and deserve to know where their money is going. That's the most important thing. But when you have somebody working on their behalf, who's elected on their behalf, what am I doing in my official capacity in Lansing? What am I doing to work on behalf of the people? Who am I meeting with? There's no secrets, in my office. I'm not beholden to any special interests. So, I mean, some other people, other representatives may see it differently, but I see it as this position where, I'm a representative of the people. I'm here to be your voice. So you absolutely have a right to see what I'm doing with that and being in that role.
So people should know that you can also FOIA their visitor logs, and certain government agencies are required to open that up to you as well. But with that, I love that you're also pushing for access to for hospitals to list their prices. Why is that necessary?
Yeah, so again, that's another transparency measure. I think everybody has has experienced it. If you ever gone to the doctor and asked your doctor, how much is this going to be? They'll say, I don't know. You got to talk to my billing department. You go to the billing department. How much is this? What's the first question they respond with? Well, do you have insurance, and what insurance do you have? It's such a patchwork, and it's so hard. It's the only industry where you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how much something's going to cost. Can you imagine going to get your car, your oil changed, and you pull up and there's no listed of how much the services are? It says, well, how much is this oil change? Well, do you have car insurance, and which one do you have? And it's just a different amount, and what's going to ultimately come out of your pocket. So what this bill does is it mandates hospitals list their charge master, which is their retail rates, if you will, what they charge for different procedures. But not only that, their highest and lowest negotiated rate with insurance or cash discounted rate. So it's available for consumers to be able to shop around. We have a good hospital systems in our area. But how do you know if you need to get a colonoscopy or something like that, of how much is it going to cost for you? This allows you to look on Beaumont's website, look on Henry Ford's website, look at Providence. We'll go to their website and look at their information and see what they're charging, and depending on what insurance you have, what that rate would be. And then it's up to your deductible, your plan, all that, because a lot of times you can't find that information. So this is just another tool for consumers to empower them to make wise choices for their hard-earned money.
And we should note, so many other states are already requiring this. Here, we in the state of Michigan just seem to be a little bit behind. There are so many things I want to talk to you about, but I know your time is precious. But with that, before I let you go, can we talk a little bit more about one thing that's been making headlines here recently? We know our bars and our restaurants are struggling, but there is a proposal to allow bars to start staying open until 4 a.m. I will say, back when I was 21, 22, in certain states, there would be times I'd be walking out of the bar like at 8 and then going to work at 9. I can't do that anymore, Ryan. But why do you think this is important?
You know what? It's that's another one that gives an option. All right. So a lot of people are, hey, bars are going to be open till 4 a.m. That's actually not so. What the bill does right now, state law says last call, bars have to stop serving at 2 a.m. What this bill does is with a local option. So it allows that local township, city, village, whatever your municipality is, if they think it's okay for their jurisdiction and that their support for it, that their law enforcement, all those considerations, that they can pass a resolution, and they could even put other restrictions on it, but where the last call won't be at 2 a.m., it will allow bars on in-premises serving alcohol on site from 2 to 4 a.m. So by state law, 4 a.m. would now be the cutoff instead of 2 a.m., but that's with local control, with a local opt-in. And what that does is, and we've learned, again, not everybody works 9 to 5. Not everybody's on the same shift. Not everybody, has to wake up in the morning or is young enough and spry to jump out of bed or jump right for the bar to go to work. But it allows people to, and especially with COVID now and with shutdowns, and we're actually operating under a curfew, to make up some of that lost time if it helps for there. I don't know how many people would do it. I've talked to different bar owners. I talked to one in East Lansing last year, and he's like, even in a college town, maybe we do it once a week. But the city of Detroit has always been on board. They are one of the ones in support because we have casinos there, and casinos still have to stop serving alcohol at 2 a.m. So if you're at a bar, you're at a club, and you go from there to, all right, let's go gamble a little bit or have some fun, take this to the next place, you can't even, get a drink and play. Yet you go to Vegas and it's 24/7. You go to other states, New York, Chicago, Miami. This is another thing that would help with tourism, with conventions, bringing people back to Detroit when Detroit was on such an upswing over the past decade and until COVID. And once things start getting back to normal, having, large in-person events and gatherings, I think this is a tool that will help.
See, there are so many things I still learn here on the show. I didn't realize the casinos had to stop, but it makes perfect sense now that when you think about it. I do know that when I was a reporter, it's like you said, so many people work different shifts. And I met countless sources when they got off at 7, because a lot of first responders will work 12-hour shifts, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So you meet them at Honest John's in Detroit, and so there are so many avenues to this that we don't think about, and that's why we have people such as yourself. State Representative Ryan Berman here with us on the Megacast. He represents District 39. Before we say goodbye, anything I didn't touch on that you want to add?
No, I mean, that's a little bit of rundown on some of the legislation I've been working on. So, out the gates, have a bunch of different bills going through. We've been very productive this year so far. I know it's almost April already, but things are on the upswing. Have another bill up tomorrow. There's going to be testimony on that's got a lot of publicity last year as well. Didn't make it because of COVID and all that, and it's called Liliana's Law. And what that does is mandates annual school safety inspections. Something you think would be happening right now, and it's not. And it's named after a little girl who was hit with a folding lunch table and hit her and unfortunately killed her a couple years back. My predecessor, Clint Kesto, brought forth this bill, wasn't able to get it through because the Department of Health and Human Services opposed it because of costs and how much the cost would be, maybe a couple million dollars, they estimated, to have annual school safety inspections. So I brought it back, picked this bill up, really important. And again, now in this time of COVID, people aren't worried about cost, they're worried about safety, right? And they're not going to let, $1 million from now we have all this federal funds, all these things to say, hey, we want to make sure our schools are safe. We want to make sure that, again, with new plexiglass barriers, flagpoles, whatever it is, all these kids have been hurt, injured, or died, that somebody is going around, and a lot of school districts do this, but not every single one of them. So this makes it a uniform standard to go around and see any type of obvious safety or risks, and make sure that, again, is discovered and remedied. And again, with that transparency aspect that I'm all about, posting on the website of how their inspections went, any type of issues, so parents can see that and have that knowledge that their school is in compliance when they're sending their most precious, their children, their most precious possession, if you will, their people to school, and relying on a school for the lives of and safety of their children.
Well, thank you for bringing that up again. I covered that story, and it was very tragic and heartbreaking as well. And that little girl did not need to die, but we need to understand, too, there are so many school buildings that, just as you said, they are not inspected each and every year. And a few years ago, this came to light here in the city of Detroit, and we need to make sure that these buildings are inspected, because we just assumed that they were, and they are not. So State Representative Ryan Berman with us here. He represents the 39th District, and please keep up the good fight about transparency and the FOIA laws. And we want to let everyone know this is not a political issue. This is our issue, because we are the citizens. They're paid with our tax dollars. They are making decisions because we pay them to do so, and we have the right to know. So thank you, Ryan Berman, for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, Todd Weston will be joining us. He is a park ranger with the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's going to be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19: wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Great to have you back with us here on the Megacast. Todd Weston, our next guest. My apologies for running a little bit late, but did you know the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge was established in 2001 as a result of a binational efforts from politicians, leaders, and local communities to build a sustainable future for the Detroit River? And because of that, it is now one of the first of its kind here in North America. I did not know it, but I have been to that area so many countless times. And to talk more, Todd Weston with us here. He is a park ranger for the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. Thank you so much for being with us, and my apologies for running a little bit late.
Oh, that's perfectly all right. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
So many people would know this area, but they don't recognize it as this area. So tell us more about the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. Like, we enjoy the beauty, but we don't know where we are. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it does, actually. I've had this conversation recently, and talking about how to change that, help people know who we are. The Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, its main location is down in Trenton, off West Jefferson. It's got a new visitor center there that's going to be opening very soon, 2 different hiking trails, and a 750-foot fishing pier. So that's where you can come most easily to see as much of our property as you can. We're not just right there, though. We're actually all up and down the Detroit River with a whole bunch of property that's there just for wildlife's sake. And by having that land there for those migratory birds, then when we're at any other park, we may get to see those birds that used some of our refuges. So we're not just down in Trenton, we're all up and down the river. And yeah, the easiest way is if you see a blue goose, or I don't know how easy it is to see the Fish and Wildlife Service symbol. It lets you know whose land you're on. But there's so many great people who have amazing properties to go hike and explore. It's kind of like when you go in, check for that sign, see who it is, and maybe you're on Forest Service land. You never know.
For so many of us, though, we tend to take our surroundings for granted. Why is it important for us to support organizations such as yours?
Oh, thank you. We're here for you to help you have those experiences outside that are enriching. And really, nature helps you be healthy. And we really want to encourage people to understand that nature is everywhere and that you are a part of it. And by supporting any of the different agencies that help protect nature, you help give people a chance to get out and have those meaningful healing opportunities that they otherwise maybe wouldn't have.
Todd Weston with us here on the Megacast. He is the park ranger for the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. And with that, Todd, have you seen an increase in visitors during the pandemic or a decrease?
Well, we have down at our site been going through some construction, so we haven't been able to be completely open the whole time. But once we did get our grounds open 4 days a week, we're full. People are there. People want to be out. They're recreating. Even in the winter, people were out all the time. I was here last Saturday, and it's pretty much full. People love it, and they love the opportunity to get out and see the area.
And the weather's been beautiful. Fingers crossed we don't see any more snow and we move into springtime with blooming flowers and bright sunshine. So what are the areas and what can they experience if someone wants to make the trip for the first time?
Sure. Our 2 trails are set up really well. We've got our Orange Trail right around the Humbug Marsh unit. Humbug Marsh is probably our most famous unit. And the Orange Trail is set up really well for people who it's their first time out in nature. It's easy to walk on surfaces. It's all accessible for wheelchairs and strollers. You can bring the whole family. We allow dogs, which isn't necessarily normal for wildlife refuges. So really, you can bring your whole family. And that trail is there for that beginning user of nature. It's an easy little hike around. You see the river, you see some ponds. And then we also have a longer trail that goes deeper into the woods, and that's going to be for more your experienced hiker. It's not necessarily difficult, but it is a thinner road. It's not like you wouldn't be able to bring a stroller on it, kind of idea. And then our big draw for a lot of people is the fishing pier. It's walleye season's coming up, and we are ready to go. That 750-foot pier will be packed to as much capacity as we can have and keep it safe.
So for so many people, when they think of the Detroit River, not always the most pristine environment comes to mind. What has been the effort to clean up the riverway?
Sure. Specifically on our site, we spent years cleaning up the land that was once part of a Chrysler plant. And through really no fault, it's just the way things happened over time. Some of the land, like you said, does have a lot of industrial contamination and things like that. So we spend a lot of time working with experts. Some of it is to dig it up and move it. Some of it's to bury it as far as the land goes. And some of it's to leave it alone, that if you're not digging it up, it's not disturbing anything. And so mitigation and education for the public about like, why don't dig here? like, please don't dig here because it helps spread things downriver if you do. It's definitely a big task with a lot of people involved.
So what's it been like, because as we said, you're international, what's it been like to try to navigate this world in two separate countries? I mean, two different counties, two different cities can be challenging. We're talking two different countries here.
And we are in two different counties as well. So yeah, no, I understand that. It is kind of on hold in some ways, unfortunately. Some of our bigger groups that work with the international side of our world are people working out in the river and lake with fisheries, with our lake sturgeon, and trying to get those populations up and running. And those things just unfortunately have not been able to be happening during COVID. But the international birds, the international fish, it's a big part of our job. It's kind of the big separation between Fish and Wildlife Service and maybe your state DNR, is that we're going to be international. So, and even down into Mexico with the hawk migration that is internationally famous for this area as well. It's a lot of partnerships and a lot of conversations, but hopefully I heard we're trying to get things back going again because the sturgeon are still there and we still want to be working with our partners across the river.
Todd Weston with us here on the Megacast. He's the park ranger for the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. And one thing we've all learned during COVID, we are all connected. My breath impacts your breath, you impact me, and it's a global pandemic. Do you think that sense of awareness could help your organization down the road?
I think that's a really great way to look at it, and how this moment has given us that opportunity to see how we connect together. I've worked places where there's a drought and everyone understands because there's a drought. But not everywhere in the country has that sort of unifying geographic feature. And that's a really good point, that this is that for everyone, and it shows us how we're all connected. And I mean, I hadn't thought of it, but I'll use it. I will take that moving forward, absolutely.
Go ahead, you can use it.
Okay.
But it really has, like, we're starting to look at the world different. We're starting to look at the person across from us differently now. And we know that we all impact one another. And that brings us together in our riverways and our nature. We've come to appreciate that and enjoy it so much more because of the pandemic and because of this global crisis. And with that, what is your long-term goal?
Sure. The Refuge, we are all about partnerships. So our long-term goal, as far as I speak specifically from the visitor services side of things, we want programming every day at the Refuge. We want partners to come out and participate on our lands. We want to be out participating on their lands. Everything is slower right now, but things are also picking up. So we've had a few public programming opportunities. We're about to have more public programming opportunities at the Refuge, so stay tuned. If you follow us on Facebook, we're hopefully going to be able to start announcing some hikes and guided opportunities by me and our other park ranger. And if you're interested, if you're someone who works in our area to help promote wildlife and the natural area of the Detroit River, we want to partner with you. It takes a community, and we're here to be a hub for that community.
I love that. Todd Weston with us here on the Megacast. He's the park ranger for the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. And with that, Todd, anything maybe I didn't ask that you want to share before we say goodbye?
I don't know. I think you did a really great job of covering, just looking at some of the notes. Yeah, we're just really happy to be here, and we're really happy to be a part of protecting your local natural resources and then helping you get out and enjoy this beautiful area, both up in Detroit and downriver.
We love that we have people in our community that are so compassionate about our nature and the land that we live in, such as yourself and your team. So thank you again for all the work that you're doing as well.
Thank you. No, we really appreciate people reaching out to help spread the word about all the cool stuff nature has to offer in our area.
I'm going to follow you on Facebook right now.
Awesome.
Todd Weston, Park Ranger, Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. If you don't follow them on social media, please do so now. And if you live in that downriver area, support them, support all of their work, because we are all connected one way or another. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and we are going to come back. And one way we are also connected, which and not in a good way, Tyler, scammers. They are after us right now, more so than ever because of COVID. So many of us are online. We are going to be talking with the CEO for the Michigan Better Business Bureau for here in our area when the Oakland County Megacast continues.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal. We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together. For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Great to have you with us here on the Monday edition of the Megacast. Boy, that weekend flew by, Tyler.
Yeah, it really did. Really went by super quickly. I mean, it helped that at least here that we had to work on Saturday, and that took up most of that day. But still, even beyond that, really quick Sunday also.
But you know what makes me excited? On Mondays, every single day I come into this work, I learn something new.
Yes.
Which that is a good thing. So if you are missing out on the programming, you can always catch Tyler and myself Monday through Friday live 10 a.m. until noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Here in Oakland County, you can tune us into Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. We are also live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on my journalist page, not my Facebook, regular Facebook. Facebook needs to get over this.
They do.
Where they limit people to 5,000 people.
Yeah, just combine the pages already. I know if there's someone that wants to open up their regular page to also being a fan page, they should be able to do that and discern between the two. You have the technology.
So one of the things, though, we are a year into the pandemic now, and an upswing of the pandemic, if you can call it that, or a benefit, is I think we have a bigger sense of community coming out of this pandemic. We're talking to our neighbors now. We're supporting our local restaurants, our local businesses more. The downside, the scammers are out there in full force because so many of us are spending so much more time online. As you know, my husband fell victim to one of these online scams as well. And to talk a little bit more, we are going to bring in Melanie Dukenell. She is the CEO for the Michigan Better Business Bureau here in Southeast Michigan. Always great to have you with us.
Thanks, Ronnie. I really appreciate it.
You know what's sad, though? I love what you guys do over there at the BBB, but it's sad that we even need you.
I know. And the sad thing is that we've been around for over 100 years. trying to protect our communities. So the scammers don't seem to let up, but we're going to keep educating and trying to protect everybody and create that trusted marketplace.
And despite how much we talk about it, they are getting more creative and wittier as time goes on. And now, in the middle of the pandemic, we have so many people that are maybe getting their unemployment through direct deposit. Obviously, right now, the big thing is about the stimulus check, but also the vaccine. How does that add in to some of these scams that people are falling for?
Well, it's also tax season right now. So the one thing that we're finding some of our consumers getting in the mail is a 1099-G, which is actually an unemployment tax statement saying that your Social Security was awarded some unemployment. Well, you may have worked through the whole pandemic, so this is very troubling. So you have now officially been hacked. Your IRS tax returns potentially have also been hacked. So now you have some homework to do. So when you're looking at that, and then from those that have not necessarily had the 1099-G show up in their lap, but they want to protect themselves from the virus themselves, we're actually about to launch an investigation to the public about someone who has collected over $4.4 million to release a clear type mask. And we're not quite there yet, or otherwise I'd tell you all the good parts of it. But it's really sad that they did it through a crowdfunding site, and people thought that they were going to be able to protect themselves. It was going to be more effective than an N95 mask. And little did they know that they were really being scammed during a time where they thought they were really going to be helping out the community to keep them safe.
And that is really sad to know that people are taking advantage of the big hearts right now. And with that, what goes into the investigations that you and your agency conducts?
Generally, it's initiated by a consumer coming to us going, this doesn't feel right, or this doesn't look right. And we start to kind of peel the onion layers back. So in this particular case, we had somebody come to us and say, it's in your backyard. It's they're saying that they're going to be releasing this mask, and we've been fighting with them for over a year. Difficulty is that we can't even talk to the business owner. We can't even get our mail to be fully delivered. We literally walked ourselves over to where their office is, and the business that's there says there's never been a business like this at this location. So we put our little Nancy Drew hats on, and we, toddle around and try to unearth it. And we also work with legal authorities, local law enforcement, as well as all the way up to the Michigan State Attorney General's office. So we do our best to kind of unearth things. I don't want to take away from Ronnie Dahl's investigative reporting, but we try to do that as well. So, when we're doing that, we really try to, I want to make it clear that if there is a legitimate business that somehow things kind of fell apart, especially during the pandemic. Yeah. And you're all of a sudden getting increased complaints and those kind of things. We're going to try to help you manage through it because, you may have gone through an overnight growth spurt that you couldn't keep up with because your online sales went out of control. Because you're closed, people are complaining because they can't get access to their products. BBB is here to help with those. And those also kind of turn into investigations as well. So when you hear BBB knocking, it's not always bad news. It can be very helpful, engaging, and trying to put the company's best foot forward if there's a best foot forward to put forth.
Oh, right. But it's trying to balance those two sides as well. Right. For the legitimate businesses, this is your opportunity and your chance to come clean.
Absolutely.
But if you're not, we're coming after you. But one of the things we've seen, Melanie, so many of these scam artists are overseas, and even our local police departments can't do a lot.
Correct. So there's a couple of things that we're asking folks to do on everyone's behalf. BBB has a website called Scam Tracker, where you can report receiving phone calls, solicitations by mail or by text. And if you just Google BBB Scam Tracker, it should pull up right in the first page, not a problem. Fill in as much information as you can. One of the things that I know that Michigan State Police has been very helpful to them is if we can start to record phone numbers. Now, mind you, scammers can spoof a phone number, make it look like the IRS, make it look like, local law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. But the more times we're able to collect those kind of bits of information, the better off they can do any of their investigation. Point that I have to give you is there was a woman up in the Gaylord area Grayling, that she comes up to me and she says, I've been getting all these phone calls about my DTE account information. And I said, oh, really? What about? Well, they wanted to verify my address and my phone number, and they also wanted to verify the last 4 digits of my social. And she goes, at first I was like, okay, that's all right. It's only 4 digits. It's not a big deal. Fast forward 6 weeks, and DTE calls back again and asks for the same basic information, but the first 5 digits of her social, and that lit off all kinds of alarms. And so she wrote down the phone numbers, did not give them the 5 digits, hung immediately up on them. Come to find out that it was a friend of her grandson's trying to get her personal information so he could use it toward his own device, not toward hers. So you always have to have that Rolodex of information and conversations that you've had before to make sure that you don't inadvertently give up too much information.
And with that, we hear the stories over and over, but they have become so witty and they look so legitimate. Right. I've received a couple from Amazon. It makes it look like you ordered something from Amazon. Right. I'm like, wait, I didn't order that. And then you would normally click on it on your phone.
Right, a link.
But now I learned the last time, stop and let me go to my actual Amazon account. But with that, how can people really tell the difference between the ones that look so real? Netflix is the other big one, and Amazon seem to be the 2 I'm getting hit with a lot. Yeah. And which ones are really legitimate?
Well, and the sad thing is that at this point, your best bet is to just go to your account. Go and type in the web address into the URL bar and navigate from your perspective. You have to remain in the driver's seat. We tend to want to be reactionary and sorry to say it, but lazy. And we want to just click that link and go. UPS is another one. You're supposed to be getting a delivery of something. And trust me, there isn't a person on the planet that doesn't want to get something free or a gift from somebody. So we all want to just click it and go. But the difficulty is that it's going to load malware or it's going to take you down a rabbit hole that you're not going to be able to get out of safely. So just if it looks like it's something you may have ordered, then go to UPS or Amazon or Netflix or wherever the site is. And then when you're also looking at shopping, when you're looking at Facebook, something pops up and it looks really adorable. It's a ring, it's some piece of art or something like that.
Mine is all the animal stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Animal mask, animal socks, animal pictures of my dog.
Do yourself a quick favor. Do not click the link in Facebook. Actually take the name of the company and Google it. And the reason being is that Facebook does not vet their advertisers. They have no idea, for most part, what continent they are on. And it may look like a great ad, but you may find out the minute you put the company name and you put the phrase reviews into Google, you may find out it's the last place in the world you want to give your money up to.
And Melanie Dukenell with us here on the Megacast. She's the CEO for the Michigan Better Business Bureau here in our area. It's so great having you on because I fall for those Facebook ads, by the way, especially around Christmas time. And it was like, put your pet's picture on the mask and the socks and this, that, and the other. So even people such as myself and Melanie, my husband fell victim to one of these scams that was a Microsoft one, and I was not home because that one I would have stopped him from, but I was not home and he followed through and I was scratching my head. You're not getting your money back.
No.
We should it's the gift card scam. Anytime someone asks you to go purchase gift cards, he
It's
fell
a
for
huge
it.
red flag. Yep. And the difficulty is that we call those imposter scams, where they're posing as somebody of importance. It might be Microsoft because of your computer.
Yep.
And generally the one, and no disrespect to him because I know who he is, it's not, the elderly that are stuck in their houses fall the most times to that one, because that is their real connection to the outside world during COVID. But the other one is the IRS, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, romance scams, and grandparent scams. So they're saying, in the grandparent scam, hey, Johnny, who's overseas, not in COVID, or maybe he's locked up in Omaha, Nebraska, needs money for bail. And grandma doesn't want, her daughter or son to know that Johnny's in jail, so she's going to send him money. They ask for gift cards. And the two top gift cards, which I was actually surprised with, are eBay. Was the first one. I did not expect eBay. The second one is Amazon. I did expect that one. And then the third is Target. So basically what they do with that is that they don't need the physical card. They just need the numbers on the back of the card. And the minute you load that card with any sort of currency, it's gone within moments. And I mean moments. I don't mean minutes. I mean moments.
Yeah.
Because what they're going to do is that they're going to take that gift card, buy something at whatever the retailer is, and then quickly sell it or return it.
Well, we so appreciate your time and all the work that you and your staff are doing over there and trying to inform us of all of this. That's going to wrap it up for the Monday edition of the Megacast. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m.